Hello, welcome to the Loop Scoop. My name is Lana Fine, the host of the show. Today I have a fellow Masters of Arts student in the Human Rights and Social Justice program, Neha Raj Singh. Neha today is going to touch on a few topics, immigration being one, and another being food insecurity and food sovereignty. So thank you so much, Neha, for coming to speak with me today. So first off, tell me, for those at home and tell myself, more about yourself.
So my name is Neha. I moved to Kamloops in 2022 September. I'm from the northeast of India, a usually unknown place. I mean, everybody has tea from there. I'm from Assam, basically.
So it must have been a bit of a different landscape coming here to Kamloops. What can you mention as one of the main differences?
Well, the climate is really different. In Assam, it's a rainforest. Here, it's dry desert, so huge, starkly different.
I quite enjoyed the recent article that was published by CJFX that you wrote yourself. Am I correct?
Yes.
So it was kind of like a love letter to food and your relationship to it and connection to people.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was beautifully written. So
Thanks.
What inspired you to want to write an article about that?
I think as an immigrant, one always is looking for something that connects you to a new place. I have traveled a lot, but Canada was the place where I had to come and live and find my place. How would somebody do that, And for me, that connection is food.
So Neha, you're also on the Kamloops Food Policy Council, and you are the board director. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm I'm on the board of the Kamloops Food Policy Council. Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short. I bet you do a lot more than just that. So tell me, how's that been like for you?
So when I came to Kamloops in 2022, I first started volunteering with the Kamloops Farmers Market. And it was already so vibrant and beautiful, but they introduced me to the potlucks at Kamloops Food Policy Council. And because I have a long working experience with grassroots movements in India, in food security, in food sovereignty, they asked me to join the board. And of course, it kind of fits too, so it's a great place to be at.
That's fantastic. So what do you plan on, where do you take this from here? Is this going to be part of your research project, as part of the program, or is there, what's cooking in that that brain of yours?
I think it is because the Kamloops Food Policy Council and the Farmers Market represent the project that I'm working on, or my thesis research, which is basically on relational ontologies. Living in a world where we all have our own knowledge systems about food and the way we eat food or the way we grow food, but we can exist together and not dominate each other, you see.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So for those at home that don't know the difference or what food insecurity means, can you kind of sum it up for us?
I think food insecurity means different things in different places. First, that's a big point to note. In Canada, I feel like it's more about having access to food, how much can you pay for food, and what is available to you. So in Kamloops especially, I see that a lot.
Okay, and what's the difference then between food sovereignty? I know you touched on this in the article letter that you'd written, but can you explain that a little bit more to me?
I think food sovereignty is more about a community's ownership in relation to food. And if it could relate to food, growing food, cooking the food, sharing the food, and also the movements around seed conservation and food and agriculture and the land systems. People always don't realize that there is an association with a knowledge system and food. It's not just a separated entities,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So does that kind of relate to people's agency and choice in deciding what they eat and not just like what's available? Because if they were experiencing poverty on top and the food banks might only provide certain kinds of food that is available, that might not be part of their cultural practice to eat those foods. Would that relate to food sovereignty, having kind of some control over what you...
Definitely. I think agency is a big part of it because it's not exactly that they're not what the food bank gives is not acceptable, so much as how much of it is grown in their own way, and whether they want to eat what they are getting, and whether they are eating what they want to eat.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Which that would be particularly important for Indigenous communities in Canada.
Yes, yeah.
So potlucks. You talk about potlucks in the letter that you wrote, and what was that like for you to go to that very first potluck?
I was nervous because it was one of the first big, I think, for me, biggish events where I'll meet people, many different people who I don't know at all. And there was music, there was lots of food, there was drinks, everything was there. It was fun. But at the same time, you are bringing a representation of yourself. It's a potluck and everyone brings different things. But you're also from a different place, so your tastes and flavors are not familiar. And it was exciting.
Was it well received, the dish that you made?
Yeah, every time I go to any potluck, not just at the Kamloops Food Policy Council, I find that people are always appreciative of food,
Yeah, it's a good place to start. Even like when I've worked with street entrenched populations, when you start with food, it kind of just softens the atmosphere and it creates a more like, an inclusive environment for people to be able to share their thoughts when you have this commonality, whether it's just putting food in your mouth at the same time, it gives you somewhere to start. And I think I found that's been really helpful. So the visual descriptions you provided in this letter about the dish that you made and the way the lush green rainforest looks, it was so poignantly done. What for those at home, can you share what the dish was that you did make for this?
Yeah, that was basically it's mashed potatoes, but it's called in Assamese from Assam. It's called aloo pitika. It basically translates to mashed potatoes. The thing is that we all eat mashed potatoes, right? In every culture, you eat mashed potatoes, but the flavors we use and the ingredients we put in it are starkly different. But it was well received. I remember there was a French lady who came up to me, in Kamloops. She came up to me and she was like, "Is that mashed potatoes? How did you make it?" Because she couldn't recognize the flavors. And for her, it was a very unique experience, even though it was a potluck,
Yeah, that's really interesting. And a good way to kind of pick a simple dish and frame it in a way that is tangible for everybody with different and spice in it.
Yeah, and she wasn't from here either. So for her, it became a connector and a conversation maker, you see?
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's the link that food does for you. And even though it's political, and it's also a connector. It's something that is relational.
Thank you for sharing that. And is that dish that you made, is that particular from Assam, or that's the northeastern province of India?
Yes.
Is there different flavoring based on like the southeastern provinces, or?
Definitely. I mean, the way somebody would make it in a different province in South India, which is already diverse, they would probably maybe use curry leaves, the curry patta, which is like, it's a different kind of leaf. That would flavor differently from the flavor which we use in Assam.
Okay.
So it's interesting.
So what's it been like for you coming to this university and being in this program?
I really enjoy this program we are in, the Masters of Human Rights and Social Justice, especially because it's opened up doors for me. And the way the intake happened, because it was an inclusive intake, right? They didn't want reference letters. They wanted you and based on your merit and on your own steam, which meant a lot to me. So it made me feel like you can have setbacks in your past, but then still, because of all the work you put in your life before you reached the program, you could be part of something.
I completely agree with that, because they let me in, then they obviously do understand it also, because it was not based on my grades from previous.
Yeah, same. Definitely wasn't based on grades. It was basically based on my work, which is what I really wanted,
Yeah, it was like a breath of fresh air compared to these other programs that I'd applied to.
Yes,
like
same.
So stringent, and you just felt defeated after a while.
Yeah.
You apply to so many, and then you find this beautiful program here. And the people that are in this program, what's your experience been like with them? Because it's been so cool, the diverse group that we have here.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, for that matter, for you and everybody else who's in the program, everybody has something to teach, and I have a lot to learn from them. When none of us are the same, how unique is that? but we are still in the same program. We have the same kind of objectives and goals towards the world, and our own, I would like to say, our own integrity towards it, right? It's similar. That's what's the values are the same, but we come from different worlds.
That's a great way to sum it up.
Yeah.
So what did you do your bachelor's in before this?
So I did my undergrad in BSc honors zoology.
Oh, okay. I thought you might have been that one.
And then
So
after that,
interesting.
I did a postgrad diploma in environment and development, like a master's.
So zoology
Yes.
is the study of...
It's a study of not just animals, but animal life, different life forms.
So that makes more sense to me now why you kind of connect so much with the food and the agriculture thing, because it's this interconnected web.
Yeah. I don't know, Lana. I didn't enjoy.
Maybe I just made that up.
I didn't enjoy my program at all, but it was really stringent. It wasn't for me. I did that because I thought I would get into medical sciences. I wanted to be I could have been a doctor.
Wow.
Yeah, but no. I wanted to do something that was based on people and nature, because I always saw them as one unit. Because my life in Assam was such that we saw ourselves as one, never separate. And working in a non-profit, if it was separated, it made me feel like we're doing half the work. Like if you're working in wildlife on tigers, I'm doing half the work. What about the people? They conserve, right? So that's why. That's why I moved on to agriculture.
You never cease to amaze me.
Thanks,
That's brilliant. So the KFPC, not KFC, Kamloops Food Policy Council, what do they do? What kind of services do they provide?
So the Kamloops Food Policy Council has been around for almost, I think, 3 decades in Kamloops, building the food sovereignty, food security movement. And today they are at a position where they can talk about just food systems and access to food security, food and food sovereignty. Give people the information and training to support them on the journey of food sovereignty as well, which is very unique. So they're uniquely placed at working on policy in the city. They've made a lot of difference in having city transitions, in getting food access to people. But at the same time, they're also working towards working with the university, working in helping entrepreneurs in food-related businesses. So it's a very, you see how it's very unique. They're also working with Propolis on creating a community where to counter the housing crisis.
Okay.
And in a way where they will have affordable housing for people, lower rents, and build a community which is unique. Build a community which is also focused on food security, food sovereignty, community gardening. All the fun things.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And all really important
Yes.
services they're providing. And so I'm hearing this little piece about education in there, giving people the knowledge
Yes.
and access.
Yes.
So some things that might not be thought of, or can people actually, get to these places where food is being given out or sold?
Yes. They actually have a gleaning abundance and a buff program where you can the buff is the Butler Urban Farm, where you can just go pick up the vegetables that are growing on the days that you can. Anybody is welcome. And the Gleaning Abundance program is if you want to go volunteer and you want to pick up fruits, you can keep it for yourself as well.
Is there another name for that? Is it free shopping or open grocery store? I feel
That's different. No,
that's a different?
Yeah,
okay, so what is the difference?
This is the thing is that they are growing the food at the Butler Urban Farm, which is also in North Shore, and people can pick up the food. There is no restrictions. No one's going to stop you.
That's brilliant.
I find that very unique in the world where everybody is so, the idea of coveting things and possession and control. There is no such thing there. You can be anybody. You can go pick up the food there.
This is bloody brilliant.
Yeah.
Will you take me?
Yes. They're also associated with Garden Gate and the Mount Paul Community Center, where they also cook food and give food to people. Okay. So I think it's a very it's like a beautiful network.
Yeah, it's unique in that.
Yeah.
They're offering so many different things and connecting all these different chapters or aspects of it that I have not heard previously done.
No. And since I'm from India, and I can see the difference, and I can see that what they are building is unique. And what if the more and more the network is building together, so it's not just the people who are involved as in employees, but the network of Kamloops Food Policy Council, they're building something unique. It's a movement. It's radical.
It doesn't sound like you're going anywhere anytime soon then.
Probably not.
So you're quite comfortable there, and rightfully so. That's awesome. So back to the topic of the toxic drug crisis here in Canada and affecting all small communities. What do you see as potential solutions there? You offered some really brilliant ideas around food insecurity in Canada, but what about that issue?
I don't know if I have the expertise for this, Lana. Quite frankly, I don't know. As a human being, yes.
That's all I'm asking from you. Your mind is so brilliant and well positioned, and you're giving a shit about people in your community. So I do wonder, what do you see as being anything possible to try and address this crisis?
I think it starts also young. Kids are highly affected by the opioid crisis. I believe that a strong support system is required for children. And I think in the education system, instead of prosecuting children for having a difficult time at home, for whatever reason, who's to judge, okay? You give them the support system that is needed. I think, for me, that's an important piece.
So it's kind of a moving away from this punishment aspect for behaviors that might be directly
not
related
punitive, yes,
to their experiences because of struggles within the family.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't think that it only is people that use substances or people that have a family member that have things to offer. I think everybody in community and across the world, getting together and having these conversations is where it's going to begin. And just normalizing the discussion around it is going to make it a safer world for people.
Yes. And
we know that people can't save themselves. You can't reverse an overdose.
No.
And it begins with, I think, these conversations and coming to meet in the middle, and not this thing about dialogue versus debate keeps coming up in a lot of the interviews that we've done. Yeah, you feel the same way?
I think so. And also I feel like compartmentalizing movements. I'm in food sovereignty and you are working on opioid crisis. I work for youth and child. You work for this. At some level, we all are connected in our movements and everybody is working on the same issue. It's happening in everybody's homes, whatever said and done. So I believe that at some level, we have to be able to move beyond that compartmentalization and know that we can contribute to everything at some level. Yes, you have expertise, but I think that we must expand our mind, so that we can help each other in whichever way the support is required.
That's so great. You're so great. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's that. You can be an expert in anything, but we're humans. That we have this connectedness of humankind, and we should have more of a sense of humanity in caring about these things, not because we don't know enough about it. Well, then learn more about it.
Yes, exactly.
Talk to people.
Yeah.
I think that that is the bare minimum of just allowing people to share with you their perspectives.
Definitely.
To move forward in the world.
Like I remember when you were doing the training for
the overdose response training, naloxone, generic name Narcan.
Yeah. So for me, that was absolutely first time. Like I don't know anything about it, and I said no. I'm part of a space where you have this opportunity, but at the same time, this crisis exists. I can do my bit, and I think Jill was also with me, so we could do our bit by just learning this small thing, just knowing this, keeping the kit with me, and that's it. Like, whoa, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, right?
Totally. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. It's something that is really important to me because it's not about ourselves. It's about everybody else.
Exactly.
And I think it's the same as if people were dying of heart attacks, we'd all be carrying around AEDs in our backpacks.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. Overdose is the number one thing that's taking people away right now.
Yeah.
So that's great that you took the time to do so. And if everybody did have the training, think of how that would change the situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's to the extent that when in the Wednesdays farmers market, we have a street nurse who sits at the booth so that she can just walk around and make sure if anybody needs help, she can do that. And at the same time, she's also willing to give people information on the on using
like safer substance use?
Yeah. And also training on how to use implement
Naloxone?
naloxone. Yeah.
Got it. Oh, that I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of creating this idea again, or pushing it forward that it's everywhere, you know, and
Yes.
it doesn't mean that just because you're in a nice neighborhood or something that there's not going to be
Yeah.
an issue there, and that people shouldn't be talking about
Yeah.
it or be kept an eye on.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
So in our program, we all have a different focus, as you mentioned. What is your research project on that you are going to be completing?
So I'm working on relationality, specifically on radical relationalism as a theoretical framework, and in how it substantiates the connection of food with growing and building a community and healing oneself and the community.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you see then as we're talking about this interconnected, placing value in interconnectedness and the relationalism between people, which was Monica
Yes.
Sanchez, I believe, was her theory that she brought up in class. What do you see then as like solutions to some of these things like food insecurity in Canada? What is, you know, what part of the system is not functioning in the way that it should to be interconnected?
So the reason why I looked at interconnection and the idea of pluriversality, which also comes from, of course, Monica was the one who introduced us, and then there is Powell, and then there's also Arturo Escobar. He is an anthropologist who talks about radical relationality and interdependence, that we are all in a web of life. And when that is disconnected, that's when the problems start. So when capitalism took over agriculture and started entering the system of agriculture and food systems of different parts of the world, basically it disconnected local communities from their seed and food and land systems and knowledge systems. That's the key. And when it did that, it created a separation. That separation was then co-opted by corporations and monopolized by them. And that space of agriculture was taken over by industrial agriculture, which is basically monocultures, large-scale farming, you know, and then taking away from diversity to just single 7 crops of the world, you know, just wheat, rice, corn, basics, nothing else. So that separation has to be now filled up. And people have to remember that we are interconnected. You can't be separated.
That's so fascinating. So there's people that think that globalization is the answer to being connected, but it sounds like from what you're describing is that globalization is actually
The
done
problem.
the reverse.
Yes, that's the problem, because this idea of being homogeneous, right? That your knowledge system should be the same as mine, or that the capitalistic monopolized industrial knowledge system is what should dominate the world, is not how you run the world. We all have our ways, different ways, right? Diverse ways of doing our things, living our lives, ways of knowing and being. You are indigenous to different places. So we have to have a pluriversal world.
That's kind of makes me think of Annie St. John Stark talks about the moral economy.
Yes.
And that within capitalist society, we all operate within what we believe is the moral economy. You know, the right to feed our families and the right to be able to, you know, profit and live a good life. But yet it becomes confusing when everyone thinks that they are in that moral economy, yet all of the things might not have the same implications on matters that matter most to me. And I frame it to the topics that I focus on, you know, it's like such as the overdose crisis, where, you know, those who traffic, those who sell, those who produce, and those who consume, and also those who are outraged by the amount of people who are dying, are still all exist within this same moral economy in the same way that they have to, you know, to make money for themselves to feed their families. When you're growing up in places such as Mexico, you don't necessarily have many other options rather than be involved with some with selling substances because of the cartel situation there.
True.
So thank you. That kind of connected it right to where I was going to lead you now. So when in India, did you see the same crisis that we're being faced with here in Canada with the toxic drug supply crisis?
Okay. Yes, and also no, because I feel like there's a veil in society. Unlike Canada, we have a class system, we have a caste system, which divides society in a way where sometimes if you're not entrenched in the grassroots. And if you don't actually open your eyes to what's happening in the world and around you, you will not see the opioid crisis. When it exists, it's rampant. You will see unhoused, homeless people, just poor people in poverty, below poverty line people using drugs under bridges in big cities. But you have no idea how many people are doing anything about it.
It's kind of being othered. People aren't paying attention to it and choosing not to pay attention to it. Is that what you're getting at?
That, and plus, Lana, that everybody has 100,000 problems. Everybody's just surviving, It's like rush. And nobody has a moment to think and say, okay, this is another problem. That's also another problem. This is also another problem,
Yeah, it's very quick to judge, but as an individual, you have no idea what people are facing on the daily.
No.
Yeah, thank you. You're such a great guest. You just nail it all on the head. So what if you kind of frame, you've seen this in India and you've seen this coming to Canada. Was that a shock for you, the situation here with the crisis being faced and the amount of people that are experiencing issues such as poverty and homelessness or unstable housing?
I don't think so, because but that's a unique case. My perspective, I think, is a little different, because having traveled a bit, I have seen that because of immigration and refugee crisis, you would expect, and with the cost of living rising, that happens everywhere in the world, I expect this to happen, that people can't cope with it, and especially the pressures of the world. There will be such situations. But what was surprising to me was the good part, that people are responding and aware of it. Maybe I'm amongst the circle of the converted, but I would like to think that people, even if there's a light awareness of it, and it's still a lot, homelessness is considered a big deal in Canada, and the opioid crisis is being looked at actively in a city is a big deal.
I think you raise a good point. It's when you're and you're surrounded with those who are really aware and make noise about these issues, then it's extremely visible to you. But if you don't have these conversations with people around you, then it's not going to be something that is going to be on your daily discussion or something that you choose to spend, time, calling in just, or such as we do.
Yeah. But also I think that the difference is that people might know it. It's just that the way they'll talk about it will not be the same as the people who work on it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah,
that's very true. So, do you feel that Kamloops could be your home after this? That you'd stay, or do you have any plans to leave us?
No, I'm here. I'm living in Kamloops.
I don't know if I'll still be here either, but
for now, I think I'm here because my husband, he is also here. So yes, probably.
Okay.
He's a teacher at Brock. So.
He's a teacher.
Yeah.
Is that elementary or high school?
He teaches high school.
What does he teach?
He teaches math and sciences.
Brilliant. My worst subject. Why I almost didn't get into social work school, because statistics class.
Oh, yes.
So is he supportive of you and the efforts everything that you've got your hand in?
Definitely. I think a big part of why I'm where I'm at today is because of him, especially in Canada. Yes, definitely making my inroads here and supporting me and just taking those very uncomfortable steps when you decide you want to volunteer somewhere new, and I was here 1 week and I was like, I want to go volunteer with the farmers market, and he's like, it's okay, yeah, you can do this, you can do this, you can go meet new people, it's fine.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, so yeah.
So what gives you hope?
You people around us, I think, just knowing that everybody's doing their bit gives me hope. I know I worked with communities in India, and I worked with women, and I worked in different parts of India, and every day I would be fascinated by their courage and their zeal, because they, with just a little bit of support, they would take the world on. It was incredible the way we would see movements build. I was blown by their effort. So I feel like if movements can build out of nothing and people just a little bit of support and love, then I feel like anybody in the world can do it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
for me it's the same thing, and yeah, thank you for the kind compliment. But I feel the same way about you. It's these people and these connections that we meet here that make me hopeful, like the resiliency that I've witnessed in people being able to survive on the daily through their struggles, that are experiencing homelessness or struggling with issues of substance dependency, and those who have just left on a whim and come to Canada when it's very uncertain times ahead. Like, I've the utmost respect and admiration for you and all those that are struggling. Like, just keep on going. Yeah. And it's about the love, and it's about taking time to invest in valuable relationships, I think.
I agree. Yes.
Is there anything else that you want to share with me and our guests at home today?
Just to do your bit and be kind and share food.
That's perfect. Is there any resources that you have to provide?
I think people can look at the Kamloops Food Policy Council. Just Google it and they'll find a lot of information. Even the farmers market, try and do your bit. Be there on Saturdays and Wednesdays, at least in Kamloops. And
Are you still working down there?
I am still doing my practicum. It's not finished yet, so yes.
It was lovely to see you down there the one time that I'd gone down. I should make a better effort at taking more time to go down there.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for
Thanks,
taking
Lana.
the time to come here. It's people like yourself that take the time and care about others in our community that are going to make the difference. So
Yeah. Thanks, Lana.
thank you.
Yeah.